Alright, what's going on, guys? Your boy TG. Welcome back to another video. So in this video, we're going to rank the teams for the 2023-2024 NHL season. As you guys can see in my background, my Mitch Marner frame. Not a Leafs fan, but he is my favorite player. So I just put this Mitch Marner frame in the background so you guys can't see it. There it is right there. But anyway, let's get to it now. So first, we got the Anaheim Ducks. They drafted Leo Carlson, and they still have Trevor Zegras and Matej Michikov, so they still have that young core Anaheim Ducks team. But interesting news I did hear about is that John Gibson wants out of Anaheim. So John Gibson does not want to be an Anaheim Duck no more. So we don't know who's going to fill in for his role. I don't know the Ducks back. I think his name is Anthony Stolarz. I don't know if he's in the AHL playing for the AHL Ducks or still in the NHL, but I think he Mike could take over for John Gibson if the Ducks trade him. But I think I'm just gonna have the Ducks ranked at a C for right there. Next up, we got the Arizona Coyotes. Now, I don't remember a few key players that they got in free agency. I didn't see anybody that I thought might have helped with the team. So I think I'm going to put them at a D. And again, guys, these are rankings heading into next year, heading into the 2023-2024 NHL season. Up next, we got the Boston Bruins. Now, they did give away some players like Taylor Hall. He's now on the Blackhawks. Nick Foligno now on the Blackhawks. And Tyler Bertuzzi didn't re-sign with the Bruins. He went to the Maple Leafs. So a few players, and Garnet Hathaway, he went away. And Dmitry Orlov, forgot where he signed to. But, yeah, some key players that went away from the Boston Bruins. But they might be still in the mix somehow, so I'm going to put them at a B. They still might be in the mix somehow. I know they had a terrible loss in the Stanley Cup playoffs in Game 7. Carter Verhaeghe and the Panthers won in overtime in Game 7 of that playoff. So after that disappointing series loss, the Bruins are trying to look to still stay in the mix somehow. And that's why I put them at a B. Up next, we got the Carolina Hurricanes. So they made the playoffs this year, but they got eliminated by the Panthers. They actually got swept by the Panthers this year. But I still feel like this Canes team can, still make the playoffs. They still are really, solid, good team to say. So I think I'm going to put them at a B. Up next, we got my Chicago Blackhawks. So, Blackhawks, I know they got Connor Bedard. Let's go. We also got Taylor Hall. We got Nick Foligno. We even got Corey Perry on our team now. So, a couple of veterans right there. We all know that Jonathan Tage is not coming back on the Blackhawks, but I would rather him retire than play for another team like Patrick Kane did. Like, when Patrick Kane played for the Rangers, it was different. I still hated that the Blackhawks had traded him to the Rangers, but they're rebuilding. So I'm not going to say they make the playoffs next year because they still have a lot of work to do, but I'm going to put them at a C. They're kind of doing like a little bit okay, but not that much. Up next, we got the Colorado Avalanche, the team that won the 2022 Stanley Cup, got it done against the Tampa Bay Lightning. They didn't go back-to-back this year, but I feel like they're the favorites to probably win the Stanley Cup next year, even though that Eric Johnson went away. I think Evan Rodriguez, he wasn't part of that 2022 Stanley Cup team, but he went away. I don't know if JT Compton went away, but I know Eric Johnson went away. But they did manage to bring in Ross Colton and Miles Wood So they got some additions there, but I'll put them at an S. I think they're still the favorites, to win the Stanley Cup for next year. Still got Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Gabriel Landeskog. Actually, I don't know, Gabriel Landeskog is going to be out the entire season because he had like a leg injury, or like he had an injury that made him to be out for the playoffs and won't continue on for the rest of the 2022-2023 season. So I think he could be out for next year, but hopefully he comes back because the Avalanche need their captain back. And they got Cale Makar. So I feel like they're probably going to be Stanley Cup champions next year. Up next, we got the Columbus Blue Jackets, who apparently seems to be getting every University of Michigan player. So, like, every player that plays for the Michigan Wolverines, that's who the Blue Jackets go for. And they did that with Adam Fantilli and Gavin Brindley, two Michigan Wolverines players, two University of Michigan players. And I feel like they could, try to make a run for the playoffs. They could, probably make it happen or so. But I'm going to put them at, C. This could be a team that still needs a lot of progress to do in order to be a playoff team once again. Up next, we got the Dallas Stars. Now, the Stars, they did bring in Matthew Shane. So that was one key player that I noticed that they got in free agency. I don't know anybody else. But I do know that they got Matthew Shane from the Nashville Predators. And they still had Jake Oettinger. So they had a good playoff run despite getting eliminated by the Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights. So I'm going to put them at, maybe a B. Put them at a B. Up next, we got the Detroit Red Wings. So they still have a lot of young power on the team with Moritz Seider, Lucas Raymond, Philip Zadina. So the Red Wings could be a playoff team in the next few years or so. I believe it. They could make the playoffs once again. Too bad they're not playing at Joe Louis Arena because that arena was rocking when it was playoff time. I watched a few Red Wings games, and that arena was just lit. Like, it was rocking during playoff time, and unfortunately they tore it down. So now the Joe Louis Arena is not, in Detroit no more because, like I said, they tore it down. But the Red Wings, they could make the playoffs in the next few years or so. I believe so. So I'm going to put them at a C right there. Up next, we got the Florida Panthers. Now, despite losing in the Stanley Cup final to the Vegas Golden Knights, I feel like they could be still Cup contenders. So I'm going to put them at an A. Put them at an A for Cup contenders. They could possibly win the Stanley Cup next year. Who knows? Up next, we got the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the Oilers, despite losing in the second round to the Golden Knights this year, and despite losing the year after that to the Avalanche, I feel like this Oilers team could still be a Cup contender. I know Connor McDavid one day is going to get his Stanley Cup, like Steven Stamkos has said. I just know one day he'll get it done, so I'm going to put them at a A. Up next, we got the New York Islanders. So they got eliminated by the Hurricanes in the playoffs. I don't know. I know they probably won't be winning the Stanley Cup next year. I'm just going to put them at a C. I know they made the playoffs this year, but just need to add a few more key players. I don't know any key players that they did get in free agency. But let's see. We just have to see this team grow a little bit more. Up next, we got the LA Kings. So the LA Kings, the last two times they went up against the last two times the Kings win the playoffs against the Oilers, they lost. But Jonathan Quick is not on the team no more. He's on the Rangers now. Dustin Brown retired. They still got Drew Doughty. They still got Anze Kopitar, who they just signed a 2-year deal with, so they get to keep their captain. That's good to see for Kings fans. Kings still might be in the mix, okay? I'm going to put them at a B. Still might be in the mix. Up next, we got the Minnesota Wild. So I don't know if Marc-Andre Fleury is still going to play for the team or not. But I'm going to put them at, let's see. I'm going to say a C, and I know you guys probably might hate me for saying some of these things right here. But once I get finished with this, you guys can let me know in the comments what you thought about this so far. Up next, we got Montreal Canadiens. Now, with the younger players, Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Uri Slafkovsky, David Reinbacher, who they just drafted. Let's see. Yeah, just in Kirby Dach. I believe this Montreal Canadiens team will be in the playoffs sometime soon, so they could still be in the mix. I'm not going to put them at a D. They could be a playoff team in the next few years. I'm just going to put them at a C. Up next, we got the Nashville Predators. Now, they missed out on the playoffs this year. So they had like a sort of a good run. They still might be in the mix. Because after Pekka Rinne retired, UC Saros took over. Even though they let Matt Duchene go, they let Ryan Johansson go. This Predators team, you know what? I think I'm going to put them at a B. They still might be somewhat in the mix. Up next, we got the New Jersey Devils. So, fortunately, Miles Wood went away from the team. They still got Jack Hughes. They got Luke Hughes. They got Nico Hischier. I think they traded the goalie Mackenzie Blackwood. So, let's see. This Devils team, I don't know. I wouldn't say that they're cup contenders, but I'll still say they're still in the mix somehow. Up next, we got the New York Rangers. Now, at the 2022-2023 season, I predicted that this team will win the cup. Unfortunately, that prediction did not come true as the Vegas Golden Knights won the Stanley Cup this year. They basically ruined my prediction, but they could possibly win it next year after getting Jonathan Quick on the team now, a veteran goalie to help out Igor Shesterkin. So I'm going to say that the Cup favorites, they could possibly win the Stanley Cup next year. Up next, we got the Ottawa Senators. So still got the Senators, young core, but they might be in the playoffs in the next few years. So I'm going to put them at a C. Up next, we got the Philadelphia Flyers. So, unfortunately, they missed out on the playoffs once again. So I believe they still have a little bit of work to do. So I'm going to put them at a D. Up next, we got the Pittsburgh Penguins. They were so close, like this close to making it to the playoffs this year, but unfortunately, they lost to my Chicago Blackhawks, and the Florida Panthers have won that game. I don't know who they went up against to clinch the playoffs, but whoever they went up against, they won that game. They clinched the playoffs. Penguins were this close. If they would have just beaten my Chicago Blackhawks, they would have probably been in the playoffs, but they lost to the Blackhawks, I think 5-2 in that clinching playoff game. But got to see them not in the playoffs. We didn't even see the Capitals in the playoffs. I mean, come on now. A playoffs with Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin, two of my favorite players growing up. I know Patrick Kane was my main favorite player growing up, but growing up, I watched Sidney Crosby, I watched Alex Ovechkin, and they were always in the playoffs. Like, me, this is the first time seeing Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin not in the playoffs. Like, come on now. Playoffs without Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin, two of the greatest players to ever play the game of hockey. Like, I don't know. I can't imagine that. That's just, I don't know, like shocking to see for me. I don't know what it is to you guys. But anyway, I still believe with under the new management under the new general manager Kyle Dubas, they'll probably make the playoffs. So I'll say that they're cup contenders. Up next, we got the San Jose Sharks. I think I'm going to put them at a D just because. Well, I don't know if they got Anthony Duclair in the trade from the Florida Panthers, and I think that's where Mackenzie Blackwood got traded to. Need to keep up on all these trades, if I'm being honest with you guys. But I'm just going to put them at a D. They did get Will Smith in the NHL draft. I did see that. Not the actor Will Smith, but the U.S. What's that league name? U.S. National Development Program. That Will Smith, the hockey player Will Smith. So, yeah. Up next, Seattle Kraken. Now, they did their playoff run ended in the Game 7 loss to the Dallas Stars. So they did impress me this year. They really did, if I'm being honest with you guys. I think we're starting to see the future of Seattle. I mean, they really did impress me. I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs this year. They didn't make the playoffs in the first year, but they did impress me. So I'm going to say they're still sort of in the mix. Up next, we got the St. Louis Blues. Did not make the playoffs this year. They made the playoffs last year. I don't know where this Blues team is at right now. I thought Ryan O'Reilly was going to come back to the Blues, but he went to the Nashville Predators. I forgot to mention that when I was talking about the Predators. The Predators also got Gustav Nyquist, so another player they picked up in free agency. I don't know any players that the Blues got, but they drafted Dalibor Dvorsky in this year's NHL draft. I might put him at a C. Up next, we got the Tampa Bay Lightning. So they lost in the first round to the Maple Leafs. I know, guys, it literally hurts saying that, especially if you're a Lightning fan. And it feels weird to say that because I did not think the Leafs were going to break the 19-year curse. I thought their first round exit was still going to continue, but they did surprise me with that. But I believe the Lightning will probably be another favorite team to win the Stanley Cup next year, so I'm going to put them at an S. Like the team to win the Stanley Cup next year. Up next, we got Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, you guys probably might laugh or say something negative about this, but this Leafs team, I like what they're doing. They got Ryan Reeves, they got Tyler Bertuzzi, and I think they got John Klingberg on the team. So, I don't know if Austin Matthews is still going to be around because I think he might be either UFA or RFA next year in the 2024 free agency. So the Leafs probably might re-sign him next year because I think he's supposed to be either UFA or RFA for next year. But I'm going to put them as Cup favorites, okay? I mean, as one of the favorites to win the Stanley Cup because I like what they're doing. They did pick up key players in free agency, and even though Kyle Dubas is not the general manager anymore, I think the Leafs probably might, and the key word is might, be the favorites to win the Stanley Cup for next year. Up next, we got the Vancouver Canucks. Now, I don't know. I think they still might have some work to do, so I'm going to put them at a D. Then we got the Stanley Cup champion, Vegas Golden Knights, and general manager George McPhee predicted that the Golden Knights, because the Golden Knights came to the league in 2017, and general manager George McPhee predicted that this team will win the Stanley Cup in the next 6 years. That prediction has turned into reality because that's right. Golden Knights, your Stanley Cup champions of 2023. And I feel like they could go back-to-back. Some people say no, but I'm just going to say yes. I think they could get it done. Who knows? Up next, we got the Washington Capitals. Now, I did notice that they got Joe Edmondson on the team. I think he won a Stanley Cup with the St. Louis Blues in 2019. And And the Capitals, I feel like even though that they missed out on the playoffs this year, they could make the playoffs next year. So I'm going to say that the Cup contenders, they could make the playoffs next year. Up next, we got Winnipeg Jets. So let's see. They could still be somewhat in the mix. I'm going to put them at a B. And then we got the Calgary Flames, who don't have their key player on their team no more, Matthew Tkachuk, as he went to the Florida Panthers. So they don't have Matthew Tkachuk. I might put them at a D. I don't know how they're going to do. They might surprise me this season. I don't know. Last but not least, the Buffalo Sabres. You guys know I got to put them at a D because they have their longest playoff drought, and that drought still continues for them. But they'll probably make the playoffs in the next 15 years or so. Who knows? But that drought still continues for them. So that's why I put them at a D. But anyway, guys, these are my rankings heading into the 2023-2024 NHL season. So at the top, I feel like either the Avalanche, Rangers, Lightning, Maple Leafs, or Golden Knights could win the Stanley Cup next year. And then for right here, Panthers, Oilers, Penguins, Capitals could be probably Cup contenders. And for the B part, those are teams that could be in the mix, could make the playoffs next year. And then C, those are the teams who still have a little bit of work to do to make their way. I know the Wild and the Islanders make the playoffs this year, but I feel like they still could use a little bit more work. And then D, of course, that's for the teams who definitely need a lot of work, and they're going to be probably some of the worst teams heading into, this season and stuff. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you think. But at the top, you see those are my 5 teams that could win the Stanley Cup next year in 2024. Avalanche, Rangers, Lightning, Maple Leafs, or Golden Knights could get it done in 2024. If you enjoyed this video, hit it with a like, hit it with a subscribe button. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you agreed or disagreed or had something that you wanted to say, just put it down in the comments. I'll read them, and I'll give you the best response to what I think of it, why I did this, and all that other stuff. But make sure you hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any more content like this. And I'll see you guys next time.